Nurse Mittens wasn't just a name, she was a presence. Every day she patrolled the halls of the small animal hospital with quiet determination. Her tiny vest, marked with a pink cross, made her look official, but it was her actions that earned her the title of nurse. When a dog whimpered in fear before surgery, Mittens was there, pressing her soft paw against its side. When a stressed owner paced the waiting room, she hopped onto their lap, purring until their hands stopped shaking. Staff swore she had a sixth sense for who needed her most. She didn't just calm animals, she calmed everyone. Even on the busiest days, her presence created a ripple of peace that reached every corner of the hospital. The head vet often joked that Mittens could handle half the cases on her own. But this wasn't a joke to those who worked with her. She was a symbol of hope in a place that often dealt with pain. No one could imagine the hospital without her, and no one was prepared for what was about to happen. To the staff, Mittens wasn't just a therapy cat. She was family. Her ability to sense distress went beyond what anyone thought possible. If a puppy cried in fear, Mittens was there, curling up beside it, her rhythmic purrs working like magic. If a vet tech was overwhelmed during a long shift, Mittens would find them, winding around their legs until they paused to take a breath. It was as if she carried the weight of the hospital's emotions on her tiny shoulders. Patients loved her too. There was something about her calm presence that made even the most difficult days a little easier. A scared rabbit, trembling during a checkup, would stop shaking when Mittens came into the room. A nervous owner would burst into laughter when Mittens playfully pawed at their shoelaces. She didn't just help heal animals, she helped heal hearts. She had become the hospital's unspoken hero, the one they all depended on. But even heroes have limits, and none of them saw the storm that was brewing on the horizon. Among the many who admired Mittens, there was one who shared an especially deep bond with her, Bella, a young nurse with a kind heart and a calming touch of her own. Bella had been with the hospital for years, and over time, she became Mittens' closest companion. Whether it was during long, stressful hours or quiet moments between appointments, Bella and Mittens could always be found together. They were a team in every sense of the word. Bella would often talk to Mittens, as if the cat could understand every word. "You and me, Mittens," she'd say, "we're in this together." And it was true. Bella had always known that Mittens made her job easier, made it all seem a little lighter. In turn, Bella made sure that Mittens always had the best treats and the softest spots to nap in the hospital. For Bella, Mittens wasn't just a colleague. She was her anchor. But on the night everything changed, Bella would find herself in a situation where nothing, no bond, no training, could have prepared her for the consequences. The storm was unlike any other the hospital had seen in years. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, while rain poured down in sheets, adding to the chaos. Inside, the hospital was swarming with patients, some recovering from surgeries, others coming in for emergency care. The usual calm was gone, replaced by a sense of urgency that seemed to fill every corner. The staff was stretched thin, racing between rooms, trying to manage the overflow. Bella, normally a steady presence, found herself juggling more than usual. She barely had time to check on Mittens, who was in the corner, quietly watching the commotion. Bella, caught in the frenzy, didn't notice how frantic the atmosphere was becoming. She rushed down the hallway carrying a tray of surgical instruments to the operating room. The storm outside made the lights flicker, and as Bella hurried, the tray slipped from her hands, sending a cascade of metal clattering to the floor. The noise echoed through the building, and everything seemed to freeze for a moment. The crash of the falling instruments broke the tense silence, and chaos erupted. A recovering dog, startled by the noise, snapped to attention and lunged in panic. Bella's heart raced as she scrambled to regain control, but in that split second, Nurse Mittens, always calm in the face of fear, darted forward, instinctively rushing to the dog's side. It was her nature to soothe, to bring peace, and she had done it 1,000 times before. But this time, she wasn't prepared for the sharp edge of the surgical tool that had fallen. The dog, still in a panic, knocked into her with force. A quiet gasp escaped Bella's lips as she saw Mittens fall to the floor, her tiny body crumpling under the impact. Time seemed to slow as Bella rushed to her side, her hands trembling. "No," she whispered, panic rising in her chest. But it was too late. Despite the immediate efforts to save her, Nurse Mittens, who had comforted so many, could not be saved. The hospital fell into a stunned, heavy silence. The news spread quickly through the hospital. Staff and animals alike seemed to sense the loss. Bella, unable to tear herself away from Mittens' side, sat there in disbelief. How could this have happened? She had always counted on Mittens being there, her silent but ever-present partner. Now, that comforting warmth was gone, and all that remained was the cold emptiness. The surgical team tried to revive her, but it was clear from the moment they began that Nurse Mittens was beyond saving. Bella, still holding her, whispered over and over, "I'm so sorry." Her hands shook, not knowing where the blame belonged. Was it the tray that slipped from her hands? The dog's panic? The storm outside? Her thoughts were a blur, and her heart ached in a way she never expected. The hospital, once filled with light, now felt like a place of mourning. Without Mittens, it wasn't just an animal hospital. It was a shadow of itself. The animals who had once been comforted by her presence began to whimper in confusion, sensing the change in the air. Days passed, but the weight of Mittens' loss never lifted. The once bustling halls of the hospital felt eerily quiet. Staff moved through their tasks mechanically, each person struggling with the same question: how do we move on without her? Bella, especially, was consumed by guilt. She couldn't shake the image of Mittens, lying still, as she tried in vain to revive her. Each time she passed the place where Mittens used to curl up, her chest tightened with the unbearable ache of absence. Her colleagues tried to comfort her, but nothing they said could fill the void. Even the animals seemed different. The dogs, the cats, the birds, none of them responded the same way. They were anxious, unsettled, looking for something that wasn't there anymore. Bella spent hours at the window staring out into the storm that had started it all. Was it her fault? Was there something she could have done differently? As much as she tried to push the thoughts away, they lingered in her mind like a heavy fog. The hospital felt lost, and so did she. Amid the grief, the hospital director called a meeting. "We can't let her memory fade like this," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Mittens changed this place. We owe it to her to keep her spirit alive." His words sparked something in Bella, who had been quietly withdrawing. She hadn't realized it before, but it was true. Mittens' influence had been more than just emotional support. She had made the hospital a place where hope truly lived, where both animals and staff found peace in the midst of chaos. Together, they came up with an idea: the Mittens Legacy Project. It would bring in new therapy animals, trained to help in the same way Mittens had. Bella, despite her pain, found herself volunteering to train the first batch. If Mittens could do this, so can we, she thought. She was determined to carry on the work that had meant so much to her. Slowly, the hospital began to transform. Bella took on her new role with a fierce sense of purpose. The pain of loss was still there, but now it had a focus. Mittens' legacy wasn't going to end. It would live on through every new cat, dog, and creature that stepped through those hospital doors. As the weeks passed, the hospital gradually returned to life. But this time, there was a renewed sense of hope. The first of the new therapy animals arrived. Rescued cats and dogs, each with their own story, their own struggles. They were introduced to the hospital slowly, just as Mittens had once been. Bella, now leading the training program, was determined to make them as intuitive and compassionate as Mittens had been. The staff watched, cautiously at first, as Bella worked with the new animals, but soon they saw the same calming magic that Mittens had once offered. There was Patches, a shy tabby with bright green eyes who slowly learned to comfort nervous puppies. Then there was Daisy, a golden retriever with a gentle heart, who seemed to know when a pet owner needed a moment of peace. Every time one of these new animals provided comfort, Bella felt a small, healing piece of the hospital's heart being restored. It wasn't the same without Mittens, but it was a step forward, a reminder that healing, like love, was never truly gone. It only took new forms. Bella smiled as she watched Patches nuzzle a frightened puppy. Mittens' legacy was living on, not just in the hospital, but in every heart she had touched. The hospital was never the same after Mittens' passing, but in many ways, it became even stronger. As the weeks turned into months, Bella found herself moving forward, not forgetting, but embracing the lessons Mittens had taught her. The new therapy animals had found their place, and with each passing day, the hospital became a brighter, more hopeful space. Bella, though still carrying the weight of her loss, was now leading with renewed conviction. She had learned that love and healing were not bound by time or a single being. They could be carried forward in the hearts of others. One quiet evening, as Bella sat by the window where she had once waited with Mittens, she felt a soft nudge against her leg. Looking down, she saw Patches, the tabby who had become a close companion. As Patches curled up beside her, Bella smiled, remembering Mittens and the warmth she had brought to the world. "You're here now," she whispered. "And that's enough." The hospital had its heart again, not just in the new animals that had come to help, but in the memories of Mittens that would never fade. Her legacy of kindness, comfort, and love would live on in every pet, every owner, and every nurse who carried a bit of her spirit forward.